Welcome to another episode of Artificially Inked. My name is Jesse Connor. I am the mastermind behind this wild, wacky AI channel that is usually hosted by robots and aliens and all sorts of other crazy creatures we create using AI. That kind of stuff takes a lot of preparation, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of editing to create those videos. I have not had the time or resources to put into those lately. So the last video, I just rambled into the microphone. It performed pretty well, so I figured let's try it again, this time with my smiling face on camera. So the last video, we dove into this project. It's currently on my screen, Easy FPS Editor. It is a retro boomer shooter style engine. The reason we're using it is because there's a lot of logic that's already in place. There's a lot of drag and drop, so you can get a game or prototype up and moving super easy without any sort of coding. I figured that was the perfect marriage for some of these AI techniques we were using, and it lended itself so well that I've decided to create a full-length project. Now, I don't want this to be a devlog because I feel like devlogs have a bad track record on YouTube. Usually the project suffers and the channel suffers from it. So I don't want to go fully down that road, but I have discovered I've really dove into the advanced features because I wanted to get the maximum out of this thing. And so there's some things that I feel that, if you guys do want to use this engine, that could be helpful. It's just helpful to the whole internet world because there's a handful of people that are using this on a regular basis to create full-length projects. The more information on this, the better, because there is not a lot. Also, I want to go over kind of the trials and tribulations I've been having with using AI lately. All right, so this project that I'm creating was actually inspired from a game called Scarlet Harvest. This is a game jam game created by Tanner Productions. It's got that old PS1 type of aesthetic, and it's using all Easy FPS Editor. So I'm like, let's take a stab at it. So I did all the exploring that I could. Since we're AI, let's talk about the AI stuff first. So here is the unofficial wiki for Easy FPS. This is put together by a guy named Pixel Wolf. He's done a ton of development in this space, and he's gathered up a bunch of resources. I'll leave a link to this, as well as a link to Scarlet Harvest and the Tanner Production channel, so you guys can see all that if you're interested. But this is pretty straightforward. It's just giving commands to the editor on the back end, so you can bypass some of the caveats that the user interface has. And then there's finite state machines for weapon animations, some other states that the enemies have that aren't necessarily there in default, just a bunch of overrides and expansions that you can use. Pretty straightforward stuff. So I took this information, I compounded that with some transcripts that I collected from some tutorial videos, and I fed all that to our good friend ChatGPT. And I'm like, ChatGPT, you should be able to figure this stuff out. Let's write some code. And it's like, no problem, fam. Except I asked it, like, here's an example. I asked it this double jump script. I asked it for something that I knew that we couldn't do. Like, at least I don't know how to do currently. I might be able to create a jank version of this later on myself. But ChatGPT is just so good about giving you wrong answers confidently. And no matter how much I tried to correct how and where it should do the thing, like, this is game breaking code that it gave me. Like, this froze the project. So luckily I was doing this on a test project. And so ChatGPT is out of the question currently. I may move into something like Grok. I may move into something such as Claude and test some other large language models. For right now, maybe once I'm better at understanding the ins and outs of the scripting language, we can come back and guide ChatGPT a little better, but it's just really bad about giving bad answers. So ChatGPT is out of the question for coding. Now on to the positives of AI. And I covered this in the past video, but Tripo and Rodin and stuff are giving us solid models here lately. Like, the upgrades are so good. And now, yeah, this isn't a AAA asset right here. But as far as the mesh, this is pretty solid mesh. I mean, that's pretty good stuff. But the problem starts is when we get into the topology. But just from looking back here, this dude looks like an autopsy. Like, it has sliced him up. Like, they patchworked him together so badly. So this is unusable in that case. But what it is usable for, let's say you bring this into Blender or some other game engine where you can have it in a 3D space, you can add some animations, you can add some lighting, and bada bing, bada boom. This is what we get. And then we can then later take these, chop these into frames, and make these into sprites. What's unique about doing it this way is that you can add certain lighting, and we'll go over the lighting situation later inside the engine of why this is important. Remember, this is a very limited engine. So if you can add lighting, like let's say the room is red colored, and you know you're limited to how much lighting you can use inside the engine, you can assist the engine by adding red lighting this guy. So now you've got all of those colors and shadows and stuff implemented right inside your model. Because what we're going to do with those is we're going to chop them up frame by frame and create sprites, because sprite sheets are what Easy FPS is going to be using for our enemies. And these are pretty good. And of course, if you zoom in, you can see, you know, we've done some posterization and some dithering to give them that old school arcade, that old school monitor look. Definitely making them retro. All right, so let's dive into what we've learned inside the engine. So we're able to create characters at least. We've got to do the scripting and stuff all manually. That's fine. It's not very complicated. What the advanced things that I've learned is by actually building out the levels. So if I take a wall texture here, and I put it and I place it down, these are going to create 3D cubes of this texture. On all sides, that texture is going to be there. So it's basically just going to map out these textures onto a 3D space. And that's going to give us the basis of our level. Now that's cool, but at the same time, that gets boring fast. This is where custom modifiers come in. So inside of a custom modifier, here's our cube. This is what our texture is going to be mapped to. This is our canvas, so to speak. So you can do stuff like columns. You know, you can do all sorts of stuff. Like I do thin walls a lot. You can do corner pieces. I've done these catwalks where, you know, it's just the bottom part of the cube. So where this cube is placed, only this part will have 3D space, and you can walk all inside of this other space. The big thing that I found out that I'm really pressing the limits with is you can work outside of this box. So here we have our 64 by 64 pixel. I built one side and then I duplicated it on the other side and pressed it outside of it. So now I can press this one block down and it pressed past. And it's like, well, why would you want to do that? Well, in this case, however you paint on the editor is where it's going to map out your X and Y. Now I had to create a thin wall here, so I've already occupied the space. I wanted to put these shower stalls in this spot over here, so I had to create one block with the extension, and I'll show you what that looks like inside of the level. So this whole thing is basically a prison that we're creating. We've got catwalks. These have all been created using custom modifiers. Now we could have used 3D models. 3D models are hard to deal with. These lights, they're 3D models. This ductwork is actually use the same thing, custom modifiers. Here's an example of a custom modifier. This is one block. This is part of extending past that zone. There's nothing blocking this and nothing to hinder this from happening. So this was a perfect chance to use this. But this block here is square. We've got, this is what your standard block when you paint it down looks like. Completely square, all sides have the same texture. This is a thin wall that's actually placed in this block space. So the shower stall had to be placed 1 block space with the extension to fill this spot out because I couldn't paint on the level editor here because there's already a block here. So you can do some pretty unique stuff if you do the math and you take the time to think and trial and error your process out. Like I said, 3D models come in pretty easily. They have collision. This is a 3D model. This bed is a 3D model, even though it needs some work. But all the rest of this has been built out using the editor tool, and because so you can do some pretty unique advanced stuff within reason. Because if you get too crazy, it will stretch your textures. Like these poles, the textures are stretched. I can't do a lot of very wild, wacky. If it's a circle, a square, and a triangle, it does it pretty well. But once you get into custom modifying, it starts stretching your textures and placing them in weird places. So you can come up with some pretty unique stuff with your imagination. And there are limitations. Like I said, the lighting. One of the things I did with the texture is I created this texture in Photoshop of this light. This is a 3D model, just so I could test 3D models, but this light is placed on this 3D model. And now if I made this light the size that I wanted to make it, it was creating this weird spot. Your lights cannot overlap. If your radius on your lights are too big, you will start to get like really weird shadows and cutoff points. And so anytime that you can create a texture to mimic something to help out with the real world lighting, always a plus, always a plus. All right, now that being said, that's pretty much it for level building and custom modifiers. Scripting, I did have to use custom scripting to get the actual light in this place, because if we back out, there's a decoration right here in front of this. All these lights, there's a 3D decoration, and I can't place a light. I can't come in here and place this light on top. It will remove it. I'd have to place it one over. So custom scripting allowed me to do that. Now let's show our enemies and how they turned out. So that's just their setup. I actually need to drop these guys in here. So let's drop some guys in. We got some guys. I usually hide a guy over here in the shower. And so I've got 3 different versions of zombies with their own animations, their own sounds. One of the things I did to give a retro vibe was I downsampled their audio. But yeah, we've got 3 guys, 3 different emotions. Now you can adjust these guys as much as you want. Give them different speed, different health, and it's all just by, adjusting parameters inside the engine. This guy's a little tougher and he's strong. He will whack you down. He's slow. That's what you expect out of a bigger enemy. Slower, stronger, more resilient to damage. Dang, he's like super strong. And then we'll have our guy over here in the shower. If I don't die, okay. And that's pretty much it for the enemies. So, like I said, you can get a game up and moving super quick using this technique. This whole thing is going to be a whole prison system with a story of how everybody was infected and became zombies, and you are just, a lonely prisoner trying to not only escape prison, but escape prison that is loaded with zombies. If you guys are interested in this engine, like I said, I'll have all of the links below. Hopefully you guys can make some cool stuff. Also, if you want to try it out, that Pixel Wolf wiki has a long list of games that were created using this engine, so you can try them out. Most of them are free to download. Some of them have been released on Steam. There's actually full releases. Stuff like Satan, I believe, just launched. It's a DOS man production game. It's just, you know, just your wild, wacky boomer shooters. If you guys want to see more stuff like this, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, as I develop, I'll drop in and give you some updates on some of the trials and tribulations that I'm going through while creating this. And hopefully, another beautiful thing is I can build I can build versions of this really quickly. It's like one-click build, really light download. So, you know, I can release versions of this as I go through, and release them to the public so you guys can try this stuff out. So yeah, let me know what you think about this format that we're recording in, and let me know what you think about Easy FPS and what you think about AI and AI coding and all that good stuff. All right, until the next video, catch you later.